Let me set the scene for you. It is Sunday afternoon. There's an open house in St. Louis Park, 3-bedroom, 2-bathroom, updated kitchen, nothing wild. You walk in and there's already 67 other groups of people inside. Someone is measuring the closet, someone is FaceTiming their mom, a couple is doing that weird intense silent eye contact thing that they're trying to speak telepathically and communicate all of their thoughts about this house before they get back to the car. That house has been on the market for 4 days. The thing is, that's not an unusual Sunday right now. That is just spring in the Twin Cities real estate market. I am going to be walking you through exactly what is happening, what it means if you're buying or selling, and what to actually do with all of this information. And I'm going to try to make it more interesting than a bar graph, which is so low, but I am committed. Hi friends, I am Mackenzie Rasmus, your global real estate advisor with Engel Völkers, and every month I put together one of these updates because I think you deserve an honest read on the market, not a highlight reel, not a scare tactic, just a clear picture of what is actually happening on the ground. So today we're going to be covering the Twin Cities metro overall, and then we are going to get specific with some hot topic suburbs like Maple Grove, Plymouth, Wayzata, Edina, and Minnetonka. All right, let's go. Let's talk about available inventory. There are currently 9,507 actives as of this recording in the Twin Cities metro area right now. It's about 38 times the entire Cheesecake Factory menu, which clocks in at about 250 items. The difference is that the Cheesecake Factory, you actually have time to think about it. Nobody is submitting a backup offer in the parking lot. And year over year, inventory is up 6.4% from 8,900 approximately year before. Now, that shift is meaningful, but it's not dramatic. We have more to work with than a year ago, but we do not have a buyer's market. Demand is keeping pace with supply. See, every April, buyers who have been quietly watching Zillow since October all of a sudden decide to start making offers on the same weekend. Nobody coordinates this, there's no group chat, there's not like a calendar invite, it just happens. I swear, every time. And they're all submitting escalation clauses on split levels in Maple Grove. This is the spring market. It is predictable, it is competitive, and somehow every spring we are surprised. Now, I do want to talk about rates quickly because I know you're probably thinking about it. The average 30-year fixed rate right now is at 6.32 according to Mortgage News Daily. And now I know that number feels different than it did a few years ago, but here's some important context. People bought homes when rates were 10, 12%, and they complained about it the entire time. And then when rates got down to a more reasonable range, they were able to refinance later, and that is the exact same plan that homeowners are going to be doing when rates dip back into the probably mid-5s. See, waiting for a return to a 3% is a strategy, but you're always going to be waiting for a market that is honestly going to be moving on without you. Now, the median sales price in the Twin Cities metro is at $393,000. That's up 2.1% from $384,900 this time last year. Prices are still climbing. They're just at a steadier pace rather than the aggressive jump we've seen over the past few years, which is finally a breath of fresh air. Buyers, though, your reality right now is that it is competitive, but it's not impossible. It rewards people who are prepared, and honestly, it's unkind to people who are not. Here's what a well-priced open house looks like right now. You arrive, there's probably multiple other groups inside already. Again, someone is probably measuring the garage, and it's probably somebody's dad, and they are clearly just using it as an excuse to spend more time in the house. See, you have about 25 minutes to figure out if you want to spend the next 30 years of your life there if it's priced correctly. Because if it's priced correctly, your advisor calls and you're going to have a lot of offers on the table. We had one in Maple Grove that had 36 offers on the table. And then the deadline was probably set back in 1962. Maple Grove is one of the clearest examples right now of a competitive, healthy suburban market right now. The median sales price is around $432,000. The average days on market is around 18. And homes are selling for exactly 100% of asking price right now. Not 99, 100. Sellers are pricing correctly and buyers are not getting a single dollar off. If you were hoping to negotiate, you may want to rethink your strategy. Now, here's the caveat though. Big caveat is that if it is priced incorrectly, you have a whole lot more leverage available in your tool belt. If you come into a house and it is overpriced, or the sellers think that their house is the best thing since sliced bread, which who officially gave the rating on sliced bread? I mean, on a scale of 1 to 10, you can't use 7. What would you rate sliced bread? Curious. Ultimately, if you were hoping to negotiate in Maple Grove, the data would like a word with you. See, inventory is at 185 homes, up from 6.3% from 174 last year. There are slightly more options than a year ago, but frankly, it's still not a lot of options. The Arbor Lakes area, the schools, the fact that this suburb has just made real decisions about what it wanted to be. A shopping hub, a place where we had developed and both new construction and older homes. Buyers have responded to that consistently. Maple Grove buyers are like the people that found a great restaurant before it got popular. Except it's always been popular for years, and there's still a wait. Now, Plymouth does not always get the same headlines as some of the other western suburbs. Here's what the data is actually telling us. The median sales price is at $500,000, the days on market are 23, and homes are selling at 99.5% of asking price. And here's the detail that surprises people. Inventory in Plymouth is at 174 homes, which is actually down from 5.4% from 184 last year. There's less supply than a year ago, not more. Now, Plymouth is not the budget alternative that it used to be. It is a 500,000 median market with shrinking inventory and buyers competing hard for what is available. For a buyer doing the math, Plymouth still gives you strong metro access and a diverse housing inventory. Just go in knowing what you are actually walking into. If you are a seller in the Twin Cities right now, spring is genuinely your window. Buyer demand is real. Competition among buyers is real. But I want to name something that I see happen every spring. There is a version of this market where sellers decide that because inventory is low and because buyer demand is high, that any price will work. No, that is not how it goes. Buyers in 2026 have access to every single sold comp in your neighborhood. They have the apps. They have done the research. They are not going to overpay because the market is tight. They are going to pass and wait for the next one. Because rates have been so elevated for a lot longer, it is very expensive for a buyer to purchase a house right now. And because the cost for them is so high, they are incredibly discerning, as they should be. Right? I think we can all agree that would actually be good for the market. Pricing correctly in a low inventory market is not leaving money on the table. Let me say that again. Pricing correctly is not leaving money on the table. The thing that creates multiple offers instead of a long, quiet stretch of showing with no activity. Also, and I mean this with love, I mean this kindly, your neighbor's sold price from 2022 is not a comp. I love you, but also your Uncle Jerry's house that sold for 3 beans and 2 broomsticks down in 1964 is also not a comp. Speaking of 3 beans and 2 broomsticks in 1964, Edina. Edina is the kind of market that validates good decisions and trust funds. Median sales price is around $675,000 and the days on market is 28. Homes are selling at 98.2% of asking price and the inventory is currently at 199 homes. Schools are great, 50th in France, I mean that's right there, it's the shopping mecca, and the neighborhoods are well established in a way that holds value over time. Edina buyers know exactly what they're paying for, probably because they live in Edina, and they will pay for it because they have the money because they live in Edina. They will also walk away from an overpriced listing without a second thought because something else will come along. The demand is real, the price still has to make sense. The price is not always right. Bob Barker lied to us. Speaking of old people, Wayzata. Now, Wayzata is in its own category, and I want to be honest with you about what the data is showing right now. The median sales price is $1.15 million. That's a lot of cheesecake. Inventory is at 45 homes, and the sales to list price is 97.9%, which sounds like it would be a big difference from 100, but that also happens a lot in the luxury market. Here is what the numbers are worth paying attention to. The average days on market is 60 days. That is up 140% from this time last year. Now, when homes in Wayzata were moving, it was at that 25-day mark. Now, hold the phone. You're like, whoa, 140% increase. What is going on? Wayzata is not in trouble. The luxury market just takes longer than the typical more move up or first time buyer market. That is just what happens with these inventory because the buyer pool is also lower in Minnesota for the luxury price point. For buyers at this price point, 60 days on market actually means that you have time to make a 1.1 decision without someone rushing you. Lake's still there, the patio is still... But by the way, I saw somebody order a $38 cocktail on the patio. I was in Wayzata, and I literally saw them not even look at the price. Just say, I'm going to get this cocktail. I looked at $38. It better come with food at that point. You still have time to enjoy your fancy cocktail on the patio. The deal is not going to close that weekend. You'll have time to be able to negotiate the deal. Buyers, come hither. I have a very specific conversation every single week. Someone is thinking about buying or selling, but they're going to wait. Maybe rates drop, maybe inventory improves, maybe prices soften. They want to see what happens. Well, here's what happened. People who were waiting in 2022 were waiting for the market to slow down. It did not slow down. People who were waiting in 2023 were waiting for rates to drop. Rates went up. People who were waiting in 2024 were still waiting for that market that they had missed in 2022 to come back. At some point, the market you have been waiting to enter is just the market. Now, I want to be clear. Sometimes there are completely valid reasons for waiting until your finances are in order. You have to make sure that you're financially viable to purchase a house. Waiting until the timing is right in your actual life. Maybe you have some life events that are happening. That makes sense, and I respect it. I'm not talking about you. But the difference from waiting from a fundamentally different market than the one that exists currently, that market may come, but you don't know when. And neither does anyone else, including the people on television who act like they do, or people that come on YouTube and they wear their fancy jackets and they say, here's all of the reasons why you should work with me. No one actually knows. So make the decision that is best for you and your family, and you won't regret it. Speaking of regret, Minnetonka. Minnetonka is the market that I actually keep bringing up because I think it keeps getting underestimated. George Bush once said, and I'm, either quoting him or Will Ferrell, they misunderestimated me. Now, that's not a word, but it also somehow is the most accurate description of the Minnetonka real estate market that I've ever heard. See, median sales price is at $500,000. Inventory is at 155 homes, which is up from a year ago. Sales to list price is at 99%, and the average days on market is 19 days, which is down 9.5% from last year. Minnetonka is actually moving faster even as more inventory comes on. It's not a market that's cooling off. This is a market that is heating up quietly while everyone else is looking somewhere else. Don't misunderestimate Minnetonka, or you will regret it. See what I did there? Had us in the first half, not gonna lie. Ground this, Mac. What does this actually mean? Here's what I would tell you if you called me today. If you're a buyer, get pre-approved before you start touring, not when you find the house that you want, before you start looking. I still get calls every week from buyers who found the one, and then they call the lender, and that call is a very different conversation from the one where they're already pre-approved and ready to move. If something happens and they're not financially able to purchase that house, that call doesn't end well. I want to protect you from falling in love with something that you can't have. Sounds like my dating life. Anyway, know your non-negotiables before you walk into your first open house. Not your wish list, not your nice to haves, your actual requirements. Because the things that your life does not function without, that is what is actually going to move the needle. In a market where Maple Grove homes are selling at exactly 100% of asking and Minnetonka homes are closing in 19 days, you will want to be able to make fast decisions because, as I mentioned before earlier in this video, the right ones are going fast. Now, fast decisions require knowing what actually matters to you before you're actually standing in someone's kitchen and doing that weird telepathic thing with your partner. Also, it's weird. Don't do it. All right, if you're a seller, talk to an advisor before you spend any money on updates. I just did this yesterday. I went into a person's house that wanted to sell their house, and I literally told them, don't spend money on that, don't spend money on that, don't spend money on that. I have watched sellers spend thousands of dollars on things that they do not need, and it will not change their sales price. It will only matter if you're doing things that make a real difference. One conversation before you start repainting or renovating saves you significant time, energy, and real American dollars. There's a lot of opinions from people who have never sold a home in your market. Cut through the noise, speak to an advisor before you get on the market. Lastly, price it right the first time. A well-priced home in this market generates multiple offers. An overpriced home sits, gets a price reduction, and typically sells for less than what it would have at the right price from day one. The data on this, it's not ambiguous. All right, so what does all this mean? Wrapping this up, the Twin Cities real estate market right now, there's just over 9,500 homes available. Inventory is up, but not dramatically. Prices are steady and still climbing in a spring buyer pool that is ready to move. It's the same story as last year, mostly. The market is not waiting around for anyone to be ready for it. The difference is that this market is a little bit more resilient because we are still in that elevated rate territory, and we're still dealing with high gas prices and whatnot with the war. What changes, though, is how prepared you are when you step into it. Now, if you want to talk through your specific situation, whether it's buying, selling, or really just trying to get a lay of the land where you're trying to figure out where you fit all of this in, I would love to connect with you. Feel free to book a call with me. It's in my stand store. The link is in the description. By the way, if this was useful to you, subscribe. I would love that. I put one of these market videos out every month, and I promise it is always more interesting than reading a market report. Also, if you're wondering, yes, I got my Boston Marathon swag, so I am rocking that for this video. Thanks for noticing. I appreciate you all, and I will see you in the next one. Bye now.